Since I've retired, I just basically do as best I can for my health, but I also want to do other things as well. I'm not going to get caught up and let CF define me. It's a disease, but I've got to live my life, and I'm going to live my life. So if I want to do something, I do it. Hi, my name is John Matheson. I am 70 years of age. I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis when I was 62. I had continuous infections throughout my childhood. I had the sweat test when I first went in for pneumonia when I was 21, 22, and I passed the sweat test. There wasn't genetic testing when I was in my 20s. 38, 37, that we couldn't have children because I was born with no vas deferens, which is a common clue for cystic fibrosis. But it was never picked up. And eventually I got to the stage where I was in my early 50s and the infections became worse. I was then referred by my respiratory physician to the Alfred Hospital. I saw Professor John Wilson, who went through all my file and looked at my history, and he said, "I think you've got cystic fibrosis." The test came back positive, which was a bit of a shock at the time. I mightn't be able to run a marathon, but I can do my brisk walks. I can do my gardening. I have a lot of activities. I keep myself very busy. I'm very lucky. I have an amazing wife who's been there through the good and the bad times. I remember when I first got my diagnosis and I went into hospital for IVs for the first time, I was exceptionally anxious because I hadn't experienced it. And it did affect me. And I actually talked to one of the psychologists in the hospital because my wife recommended I have a chat with them. I had this massive fear that maybe I won't be around for my life. I had to come to terms that maybe, this is going to be serious. But then we discussed it and I said, well, it's not a great prognosis, but I'm still here. We're going to enjoy the time we have. And to be honest, at that time, I didn't think I'd even make 70 because I was quite sick at that time. I had to go into hospital for IV antibiotics because I had a few major infections. I got through that relatively well. Then 6 months later, I was in again. Since the Trikafta has come on board, I've had only 1 or 2 infections since then, fairly minor. My lung function went up a little bit, not as much as others, I've heard. I've put on a few kilos, and to me, that's a miracle. And fortunately, I can live a normal life. I had a number of friends who weren't as fortunate as me with their journey, who, in a way, gives me a little bit of a guilt complex because I feel why have I been as lucky as I have to be 70 and still functioning, and they've been through a much tougher journey with having transplants and things like that. Catch up with one of them who just had a transplant outside in the courtyard, 10 feet away from each other, because I didn't want to, obviously, after having a transplant, turn bugs off. And it was inspiring for me to listen to this particular person. Matter of fact, she's inspired me more than anything because it makes me feel how grateful I am when I listen to her journey. And she's an amazing woman who's had a difficult time but has persevered through it, which is something I admire. I think a good CF doctor is someone who listens to you. I do nearly 99% of what they say. Sometimes I've got my own mind and I think, well, do I really need this or do I? But as long as I put in the effort with exercise, because I think, to me personally, it's the number one. I just feel better when I do it. Better outlook, better for your mental health, better for your lungs. And one of the things I read once was that You can try and fail, but never fail to try. Always been a positive person. I don't dwell on it now. I just think I'm going to get on and do it. Just do what I need to do. It hasn't impacted my future. I know, okay, I might live to be 100, but I'm going to live the life I want while I can, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that. I haven't been on a big trip for years, so now that I'm on the Trikafta and I'm relatively stable, now's the opportunity to go out and do it. So we're looking forward to that. I think quality of life is important. You want to live a good, productive life. If you're a younger person, make your health a priority, your nutrition. I believe you can live a relatively normal life. So at my age, to get Trikafta, I feel extremely grateful. But that will happen, I believe, for you too, as long as you put in the effort. I'm just very grateful. That's my main message, and I live life for today. I just do what I want to do. I'm going to live the life I want, and I advise anyone with CF, live your life. Get on and do what you want to do with your life.